In a remote ancient ruin, two adventurous young women, Lycelia Ray Crystalia and Regina Mercedes, were on a quest, exploring the seventh layer. They scanned their surroundings, relieved to find no monsters nearby. However, Regina had her doubts. Reports had mentioned a hive deep within these ruins, and she questioned whether they should retreat. But Lycelia, determined and curious, insisted they press on. As long as Lycelia was okay, Regina agreed to continue their exploration. As they ventured deeper, they discussed the importance of checking the rumored hive to prevent it from becoming a threat to their capital. Their journey led them to a chamber that seemed fit for a king, resembling a tomb. Curiosity got the better of them as they pondered whether it truly was a royal resting place. In their thoughts, they mused about how lonely it must have been for a king if this was indeed his tomb. Their path seemingly reached a dead end, but Lycelia's keen eye spotted something extraordinary, a gate-like structure with ancient elven markings. They couldn't decipher the language, but Lycelia sensed it held secrets. As she devised a plan to open it, Regina went ahead and scouted their surroundings. Lycelia felt an unusual energy emanating from the gate, making her believe that something was alive behind it, keeping the system running. She realizes it was a piece of lost ancient technology. Lycelia cautiously approached the gate, wondering what might lie beyond. Suddenly, a spark of magic erupted, and the gate swung open miraculously. Their magical devices glitched, leaving her baffled. Without fully understanding what was happening, Lycelia bravely ventured forward and stumbled upon a colossal crystal. What she saw inside left her utterly shocked. A human trapped within the crystal. Lycelia knew they needed to act swiftly to free this person from their crystalline prison. Inside the crystal, a human woke up, grumbling about the noise. He realized he'd been trapped for over 1,000 years and came to terms with the fact that the reincarnation experiment had worked. Annoyed by the commotion outside, he wondered who or what had disturbed his long rest. He couldn't fathom how someone had bypassed the gate that should have sealed him away. In the midst of all this confusion, the demon lord broke free from his crystal prison, heard voices that sounded like human language. He frowned, assuming it was just another group of grave robbers. With a deep, commanding voice, he proclaimed, "Burn into your eyes the visage of this reborn demon lord, perish." The crystal shattered in response, causing a massive explosion that sent Lycelia tumbling away. As the dust settled, the demon lord stood tall, his gaze fixed on an unexpected intruder. He questioned aloud, what idiot would dare to rob a demon lord's grave? To his surprise, a young and beautiful lady appeared, looking confused and taken aback. The demon lord blushed, not quite expecting this situation. He cleared his throat and declared that he was justified in punishing the scoundrel. But Lycelia was utterly bewildered. Lycelia couldn't help but ask, "Why is this person a child? Out of all places, why is a child here?" The demon lord, still in a state of shock, realized that he had taken on the appearance of a child, which seemed impossible given his previous form as a powerful demon lord. He pondered the reason behind this unexpected transformation. He began to explain in his thoughts that there were various methods of reincarnation. He had chosen to return to a previous state, a process that should have seen him reborn in a fiery blaze like a legendary phoenix. However, something had clearly gone, and he now found himself in a child's body. As the demon lord grappled with his confusion, Lycelia, in her kind and gentle manner, asked him why he had been locked in the crystal. She bombarded him with questions, but he struggled to provide coherent answers due to the shock of his situation. In an attempt to comfort him, Lycelia embraced him like an older sister and vowed to protect him from now on. Despite his initial resistance, the demon lord couldn't help but acknowledge that she might have saved his life. Lysilia quickly contacted Regina to inform her about the discovery of an abandoned child in the ruins and suggested getting him checked out. Regina readily agreed. As they shared a meal, Lysilia introduced herself as a member of the Seven Assault Gardens Holy Sword Training Academy and a knight from the 18th Platoon, revealing that she was only 15 years old. With a warm smile, she asked for the child's name, but deep in his thoughts, he wondered if she had mistaken him for a child captured by a demonic monster. He hesitated for a moment before finally introducing himself as Leonis Magnus. Lysilia couldn't help but smile and comment that Leonis was a cute name. In his own musings, Leonis couldn't understand how his name could be considered cute when it was associated with the fearsome demon lord. Lysilia then inquired about Leonis's age, to which he replied that he was 10 years old. She assumed he had been abandoned and asked if he remembered anything about the voids that had captured him. Leonis, however, had no recollection of the void. Lysilia explained that voids were enemies of humanity from another world, and she, as a holy sword knight, was part of the fight against them. Leonis, deep in thought, wondered why there were new world enemies when, in his time, the demon lord's army had been the greatest threat to humanity. He couldn't reconcile these events with the goddess's prophecy, which he knew were not mentioned. Lysilia elaborated that they had come to these ruins to locate the void's position and had stumbled upon the gate that led her to Leonis. Suddenly, Leonis posed an unusual question, asking Lysilia about the year in the divine calendar. He believed it to be the year 1447, given the fall of the last demon lord's army base, Necrozoa, over 1,000 years ago. Lysilia, puzzled by the term divine calendar, clarified that it was the 64th year of the human union calendar. Leonis couldn't help but wonder how this calendar had come into existence and why it wasn't called the divine calendar. Just then, Lysilia received a call from Regina, warning her of a massive void approaching. Leonis inquired about the situation, but Lysilia couldn't provide exact details, only knowing that something was coming their way. With caution in mind, they made their way out of the ruins, but a sudden appearance startled them, an ogre-type void. These creatures were known as man-eating beasts under the demon lord's command. The void before them was colossal, resembling a giant. Leonis remarked that these enemies of humanity imitated the appearance of old gods, but to him they seemed more like artificial beings. As the ogres made their move, Lysilia defended Leonis. However, her weapon struggled against the massive foe. Miraculously, Regina appeared on the scene, unleashing her firepower to fend off the ogres. She was ready for battle, but inquired about the child they had found in the ruins. To their surprise, the ogres rose again, seemingly undeterred. Regina unleashed a powerful weapon, the Dragon Slayer, and fired a massive blast at the ogres. Lysilia questioned whether it had worked, but unfortunately, the ogres stood once more. With the situation growing dire, Regina urged Lysilia and Leonis to leave while she handled the threat. Lysilia agreed and swiftly led Leonis away, explaining that she knew of a shortcut to the surface. As they hurriedly made their escape, an unexpected obstacle arose, a Wyvern-class void. Without hesitation, Lysilia urged Leonis to run while she stood her ground to protect him. But in a surprising twist, Leonis had a change of heart. He was determined to vanquish the monsters and demonstrate his power. With confidence, he chanted a spell and prepared to unleash his magic. But before he could unleash his power, Lysilia acted quickly, pushing Leonis out of harm's way and sacrificing herself to shield him from the void's attack. Her selfless act left her critically injured, and Leonis was left in disbelief. Kneeling by Lysilia's side, he questioned her recklessness. With her last breath, Lysilia implored him to escape and join Regina. As he held her hand, contemplating her sacrifice, memories of a similar act from his past flooded his mind. A girl who had saved him and offered a simple yet profound declaration. Being a hero is boring. Be mine, Leonis. Inspired by Lyselia's bravery, Leonis made a decision to avenge the brave young woman who had protected him. With newfound determination, he prepared to face the Void monster, chanting a spell and raising his sealed magic staff. A powerful blast surged from his staff, instantly obliterating the Wyvern-class Void, leaving behind only its bones. But Leonis realized that this body was still weak and couldn't hold the power he once possessed in his prime. He knew he needed to act quickly to save Lyselia's life. In the moments after the battle with the Wyvern-class Void, Lysilia lay unconscious, plagued by visions of the child she couldn't protect. Meanwhile, Leonis was grappling with the unfamiliar technology of a map, feeling frustrated and tired. His mind wandered back to the moment Regina had unleashed the mighty Dragon Slayer, a display of power that left him awestruck. He marveled at the existence of advanced magic, holy swords, and voids, realizing that none of these had existed 1,000 years ago. According to the prophecy, a reincarnated goddess with immense power was supposed to emerge 1,000 years into the future as the goddess of rebellion. As Leonis reminisced about the past, Lysilia began to stir. He immediately set to work, channeling healing magic to aid her recovery. After a while, she finally awoke. Lysilia's eyes opened to an unexpected sight: Leonis. Without hesitation, she rushed to hug him, relieved to find him safe and sound. Then, her expression shifted to one of confusion, and she questioned why she was still alive after the encounter with the Wyvern. Leonis explained that he had used his sacred healing sorcery to help her recover, and she was puzzled by the term sorcery. Leonis was taken aback, worried that he might have said something strange. However, Lysilia assumed he was referring to the Holy Sword's power, which she knew had the ability to heal and had been confirmed at the Sword Academy. Leo, skeptical, responded with a simple, "It can do that?" Lysilia realized that Leonis was a holy sword user and deduced that he had been kidnapped due to his powers. She proceeded to explain to him that the holy sword was a power that humans could wield to fight against monsters, especially the Voids. 64 years ago, the Voids had appeared, wreaking havoc and significantly reducing the human population. When humanity had been on the brink of extinction, children had started developing strange magical powers related to fire and air, gifted to them to combat the Voids. These children, known as weapons, were dubbed holy swords. Leonis's thoughts raced as he tried to make sense of the world's system. In this world, once a child displayed the power of the holy sword, they were sent to the Holy Swordman Training Institute, commonly known as the Holy Sword Academy, for training. Leoni was torn. He wanted to keep his powers hidden, but it seemed that Lysilia was onto him. She praised him for using his power to heal her, but Leonis couldn't help but wonder if she knew the truth, and what she would do if she did. As Lysilia and Leonis continued their conversation, they touched on the topic of the monster's defeat earlier. Leonis recounted how the Void had trembled in fear before disappearing. Lysilia whispered to him, "I see. It was tough, especially since the Void's actions are unpredictable." Curious, Leonis inquired about Voids, and Lysilia explained that they were legendary creatures from ancient times that caused havoc in their world. They were nicknamed Voids. With the discussion concluded, Lysilia decided it was time to leave. She contacted Regina to arrange a rendezvous and led Leonis towards the exit. Despite his exhaustion, they eventually made their way out of the ruins and signaled Regina. Upon their reunion, Regina couldn't help but worry upon seeing the injuries on Lysilia's body, but Lysilia reassured her that she was fine and promised to explain everything in her report to the Academy. Regina turned her attention to Leonis after hearing Lysilia's account of his situation, a deserted child potentially abducted by Voids. She introduced herself as Lysilia's maid, Mercedes Regina, and expressed her delight at meeting Leonis. Regina, with her playful nature, couldn't help but notice Leonis's odd reactions and teasingly labeled him a lewd boy. Leonis, embarrassed and confused, found it hard to respond. As they continued their journey back to the city, Regina and Leonis discussed the term deserted. She explained that deserted referred to people who had been forced out of their country during the Void's invasion or had been cast out. Regina couldn't provide exact numbers, as the new map had to be constantly updated due to major Void invasions. Leonis apologized for not remembering much, and Regina suggested a humorous method to jog his memory. She jokingly raised her skirt and asked if it would give him a shock to help him remember. Leonis, flustered, quickly declined. As they approached the city, the towering buildings in the distance signaled their arrival at the 7th Assault Garden. Upon arriving at the city known as Assault Garden, Leonis was awestruck. It was the first time he had ever seen such a place, a man-made floating city powered by electricity, receiving all its supplies from the inner parts of the city. Licilia explained that the primary mission of Assault Garden was to move the city onto the sea while battling against the Void colonies. They made an abrupt stop near a tall building, and as Leonis disembarked, Licilia explained further. She informed him that holy swordsmen transferred to the Holy Sword Academy had a duty. They weren't compelled to fight against the Voids, but they needed to cooperate. Leonis contemplated this opportunity to learn more about the holy swords. Licilia and Regina assured Leo that they would meet up again after the academy inspection, although Licilia was worried that he might get lost. Regina, however, reassured her that it was a straightforward path, and Leo nodded in understanding as they went their separate ways. As Leonis pondered why things had come to this, he couldn't help but think about his past. He had used sorcery to revive himself as the Demon Lord and had even become the Demon Lord, a hero in his previous life. Now, he was a child in a different world, and the situation was bewildering. In his past life, he had been betrayed by humanity and had contemplated ending it all before being saved by the goddess of rebellion. He had been both a hero and a demon lord, so he had experimented with a two-way reincarnation. In the present, Leonis spoke words that summoned two beings, Blackus and Shirley. Blackus was a shadow prince from the Shadow Kingdom, and Shirley was the demon's maid. They were surprised by Leonis's current form, and while Shirley found it cute, Leonis didn't appreciate the banter. He had summoned them to investigate the city because this world was vastly different from the one he knew. They vanished instantly to carry out their mission, while Leonis decided to proceed to the Holy Sword Academy, making sure not to stand out. After some exploration, Licilia called Leonis, indicating that she was done for the day, and handed him a provisional ID card, emphasizing not to lose it, as it also served as a status verification ID. Leo understood, and they headed towards the academy. The city they were in left Leonis in disbelief. The towering buildings and organized roads, the peaceful atmosphere, it was all astounding. Licilia explained that this city had zero chance of being invaded by the Voids because the 8th Assault Garden was under construction. The city was divided into residential and commercial districts, with the administrative office located in the center. The heart of Assault Garden was the Holy Sword Academy, responsible for controlling the military. Licilia suggested they take a proper bath before entering the academy. She explained that the academy had an auditorium, cafeteria, outdoor training facilities, a giant library with a laboratory, a dance hall, and a leisure area. Leonis was particularly intrigued by the dance hall, and Licilia explained that it helped holy swordsmen combat stress to fully operate their powers. Leo, still feeling nervous about entering a girl's dorm, asked if it was okay. Licilia reassured him, emphasizing that he was still a child. As Licilia got ready for the bath, she insisted that Leo go ahead. Initially hesitant and embarrassed, Leo eventually gained the confidence to proceed. However, He couldn't help but wonder about the situation he had found himself in. As Leonise immersed himself in the bath, his mind raced with thoughts. Suddenly, Licilia entered the bath, taking him by surprise. She seemed entirely comfortable with the situation, and as they bathed together, she even playfully washed his hair. Leo was flustered, and his thoughts were a jumbled mess. Why was she bathing with him? Amid the warm water and steam, Licilia shared her tragic past. Her parents had been killed by the Voids during a stampede, a devastating event caused by these creatures. 6 years ago, she had lived in the third assault garden until it was destroyed one fateful night. Her parents, former holy swordsmen, had perished while protecting the citizens. The only survivors had been her and Regina, the maid. Her parents had taken her to the Holy Sword Academy with the expectation that she would manifest her holy sword, but it never happened. Licilia believed that one day her power would awaken, and she asked Leo if he would consider joining her platoon, though she assured him it was entirely his choice. With thoughts swirling, Leo was already leaning toward accepting her offer. After all, it seemed right to stick with family. Suddenly, Licilia felt an overwhelming exhaustion, as if her life force was draining away. Leo, filled with regret, finally revealed the one lie he had told earlier. The holy sword power he had used wasn't healing, and he confessed that she was dying.